So this is a video for Big Country 64 in response to your video about 3 wishes. First thing is that failure is a far greater teacher than success. We learn from our failures. We learn an awful lot. And that's what a divorce is. It's a failure. It's really a failure to communicate. But that happens to a lot of people. And there's no single injured party, despite what people might tell you. Both people are responsible. Both people are injured. Both people have their hopes and desires dashed. You know, on the one hand, it is good to look back and review what one has done and, feel remorse for what one could have done. But I also wanted to give you this idea of looking at your life as a work of art. As an artist, we're taught to look at the shadows and to appreciate them for what they are. The shadows are important because they accent the light. So when we look at our own life as a work of art, we can look at the shadows as something that has made the entire work of art what it is. You cannot have a beautiful piece of art without shadows. But, it takes all of our life to teach us what we need to learn, to give us the experience of having lived, the good parts and the bad parts. Like I said, failure is a great teacher. It's far better than success. On the one hand, yes, your ex-wife, in stepping out on you, did break her vows, but I want to suggest to you that perhaps you took vows as well to cherish that woman, and what you're recognizing is that if you had it to do over again, you would cherish her in a different way. Both sides of a marriage need to communicate what works and what doesn't work. In fact, we need to talk about what doesn't work probably more. But we need to talk about it in a way that the other person can hear. And what I heard in your statement was that she didn't talk to you in a way that you could hear, and you didn't cherish her in a way that she could feel cherished by. And that is indeed sad. But it happens. People move on from it. And they learn. I suspect in your next relationship, and I have no doubt that you'll have another one, you're a sweet guy, in your next relationship, you'll do it differently, won't you? And that's what it takes to get us to the place where we do things in a different way. We have to fall on our faces, pick ourselves up, not dwell on being the injured party. In fact, the more we're justified in thinking we're the injured party, the harder it is to get past it. It's the ideals, the ideals that people hold about marriage that get dashed and are so devastating when we realize that, we had the best of intentions, but somehow it still failed. And I'll tell you something else. You can do everything right, and it still might not work out. It's an amazing thing. Relationships are tough. I got married, I swore I wouldn't get married until I was 30, and I held out till I was 26. And I got married for the wrong reasons. Not that I was pregnant. I realized after 6 months, at this moment of blinding clarity, I realized that this man was never going to meet my needs. And I left. It was still devastating. I know it hurt him. It certainly hurt me. I was wounded for decades. Literally decades, from having my hopes and ideals dashed by this man, by the situation. But, the reason I got married was because my mother was dying of cancer, and I wanted anything in my life that had the chance of a positive outcome. Moving towards life, that's what human nature points us towards, is moving towards what brings us life. I'm a firm believer that if you're attracted to somebody else and you really want to do something about it, that you ought to get out of your relationship first. but I had to learn that the hard way, as many people do. I was wild as a young kid, in my 20s, as many people are, and I think that most kids really need that phase to go through in order to mature them to the place where they can appreciate what a good relationship is. Not just one's ideals, one's imagination of what makes a good relationship, but appreciate the reality of it. People are frail. They go through all sorts of different changes. When they're feeling hurt or put upon by life, sometimes they regress into childish behavior. And if they haven't gone through some of that wild stuff that a lot of kids go through in their 20s, they act it out in their 30s and in their 40s and in their 50s and in their 60s. It's amazing. I just wanted to say that I really appreciate sitting on the porch with you, and I hope you keep up the good work.